There, I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome to reading Plato's Republic, Book One. Today, we're finishing up the discussion, finishing with focusing on Thrasymachus' speech, returning Thrasymachus, between lines 348b to 354c. He ends the dialogue up here, right? And this is the ending of will be the end of what is the first book of the Republic, which debates the interlocutors of what is justice, right? The question of justice. But now the question seems to shift, right? He goes, now, Thrasymachus, answer us from the beginning. Do you claim that complete injustice is more profitable than justice when it's complete? I claim it very much so, he said, and I've said why. Well, then, do you speak about how do you speak about them in this respect? I presume you call one of the pair virtue and the other vice. How could it be otherwise? So you call justice virtue and injustice vice? Yeah, right. If you most amusing fellow, since I also say that injustice is profitable and justice isn't. What then? It's the opposite, I said. Justice is vice. Well, no, no, just very well bred simple mindedness. Then what do you call injustice? Bad characters? No, just good judgment. Just good judgment. Then, so what do you call injustice? Bad character? No, just good judgment. And do unjust people seem to you, Thrasymachus, to be intelligent and good? If they're able to be completely unjust, he said, then they have the power to bring cities and throngs of people under their control. But you probably imagine I'm talking about pickpockets. Now, things like that are profitable too, he said. Sigma said, as long as they go unnoticed, undetected. They're just not worthy of mentioning compared to what I'm talking to what I was talking just about just now. On that point, I said, I'm not unaware of what I am not unaware of what you want to say, but I wonder about this one, whether you place injustice in the class of virtue and wisdom, and justice among the opposites. That's exactly where the place I place them. This is already something harder, my companion, I've said. And it's no longer easy to have anything one can say about it. If you place injustice among the profitable, but still agreed the way some others do. 8 here is one such person is Polus and Gorgias, right? Others do that. It is vice and shameful. We'd have something to say by speaking in accordance with the things custom believe. But now you're obviously going to claim that it is both beautiful and strong, and you'll add it to the other things that we attribute to what's just, since you even have the nerve to place it among virtue and wisdom. Your premonition is very true, he said, but still, one mustn't shrink from going through the argument to examine it, so long as I get the impression that you're saying exactly what you think. For you seem to me now, Socrates, without pretense and not joking, but saying what seems to you about the truth. What difference does it make to you whether it seems that way to me or not? Are you just cross-examining the argument? No difference, but I try to answer this question for me in addition to those. Does it not seem to you that the just person wants to have more of anything than another just person? By no means, he said, since then he wouldn't be the refined simpleton. I just said he is. What then? Would he want to go beyond a just action? Not that either, he said. And would he consider it appropriate to get more than the unjust person in regards to the just, or he would not? He'd regard it as just and consider it appropriate, he said, but he wouldn't have the power to. He wouldn't have the power to. Get it? In other words, he regarded it as just and considered it appropriate, but he wouldn't have the power to. You know, I am not asking you that, but whether someone who just would not consider it appropriate or even want to have more than a just person, would he consider it so and want that in relation to the unjust person? That 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 is the way it is, he says. And what about the about someone who's unjust? Would he consider it appropriate to go beyond a just person and a just action? How could he not? He said, since he considers it appropriate to have more than everybody. Then will someone who is unjust also go beyond an unjust human being and an unjust action? And he will and he com- complete and will he compete to get the most of everything himself? That's it. So should we say this, that someone who is just does not go beyond one who is like him, but one who's unlike him, while someone who's unjust goes both beyond both one who's like him and one who is unlike him? You've said it best, he said. And is someone who's unjust intelligent and good? I said, while someone who is just is neither one. This too is well said, he said. So then, someone who's unjust is like one who's intelligent and one who's good, while someone who is just is not like them. Now he's going to be okay. Now he's going to be like people of that sort, he said. When he's that sort of person, while the other is not like them. Like them? In other words, he said, how 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 is he not going to be like that, like people of that sort, when he is that sort of person, while the other is not like them? Right? Beautiful. Each of them is the sort of person that each is like. What else are there going to be? He said. Fine, Thrasymachus. Do you now call one person musical and the other person unmusical? I do. Which is intelligent, which is ignorant? The one who's musical is surely intelligent. The one who's musical ignorant. The one who's the one. Then, in respect to the one who's intelligent, the one is good, and those in those respect which he is ignorant, which one is ignorant is bad. Yes. And what about someone who is medical? Isn't that the same way? The same. So, does it seem to you, the most excellent one, that the musical man who's turning a lyre desires to go beyond the musical man and stretching and loosening the strings and considering it appropriate to have more? Not to me. Then what? Beyond the one who's unmusical? Necessary so. And what about someone who is medical? About food and drink, would he want any way to go beyond a medical man or a medical action? Surely not. But beyond an unmedical one, yes. Then see whether it seems to you that for any kind of knowledge and ignorance, anyone whatsoever who has knowledge desires to take or do or say more than another person with knowledge would, and not do or say the same things as someone like himself in the same action. Well, maybe it's necessary for it to be that way, he said. And then when someone, and then what about someone who lacks knowledge? Wouldn't he go beyond both, someone with knowledge and someone without it alike? Maybe. And someone who has knowledge is wise. I'd say so. And someone who is wise is good. I'd say so. Therefore, someone who's good and wise wouldn't desire to go beyond someone who like himself, but beyond someone who, unlike himself, and the opposite of himself. It looks like it. But someone who is bad and stupid desires to go beyond both the one who is like him and who is opposite. It appears so. Now then, Thrasymachus, according to us, someone who is unjust goes beyond both the one who is unlike him and the one who is like him. Weren't you saying that? I was. And someone who's just won't go beyond the one who's like him, but beyond the one who's unlike him. Yes. Therefore, I say, Socrates, right, says that someone who is just is like the one who is wise and good, and someone who's unjust is like the one who's bad and stupid. They're liable to be. But surely we've agreed that each of the two is the sort of person that each would be like. We did agree on that. Therefore, the just person has been brought to light as to us as being good and wise, and the unjust person as being stupid and bad. Now, Thrasymachus did agree to all things, though not as easily as I'm telling it now, but being dragged along and grudging it after sweating a prodigious amount. And he's sweating like he's just sweating like this, right? Seeing how it was also summer, right? And then I saw something that I'd never seen before. Thrasymachus blushing, like he's blushing, like, oh God, I'm just embarrassed. He realized Thrasymachus is at this point. Obviously, he's been sweating, he's been fighting. At this moment, at this point, when he said this, he's blushed. So we have come to an agreement that justice is virtue and wisdom, and injustice vice and stupidity. I said, okay, let this be the way it stands according to us. But we're also claiming that injustice is something strong. Or don't you remember, Thrasymachus? I remember, he said. But what you're saying now isn't good enough for me. I have something to say about it. But if I were going to say it, I know well that you claim I was speaking rhetorically. So either let me speak as much as I want, or if you want to ask questions, ask them. Or I'll treat you the way people do old women when they're telling stories and tell you okay and nod my head and shake it. Okay. In other words, don't don't by any means do that contrary to your own opinion, right? Just to please you, seeing as you won't let me speak. What else do you want? Nothing by Zeus. But if you're going to do that, do it and I'll ask questions. Ask away. Well, I'm asking this, the very thing I just asked just now, so that we might go thoroughly through an orderly examination of the argument about exactly what sort of thing justice is in relation to injustice. For it was said, surely, that injustice would be more powerful and stronger than injustice. But now, I said, if justice is in fact wisdom and virtue, it will easily be brought to light. I mean, that, as a stronger thing than injustice, seeing how injustice is stupidity, right? So justice is stronger in that sense, right? Because no one could any longer be ignorant of that. But the Thrasymachus, I don't wish for it to be considered so simply, but in something like of the following way. Would you claim that a city is unjust that tries to enslave other cities unjustly and has made slaves of them and holds them in slavery to itself? How could it be otherwise? And he said, and the best city would do this the most, since it also is almost, and the best city is will do it the most, since it is also the most complete unjust. I understand, I said, that this was your argument, but I am considering this about it. Will the city that becomes master of a city hold this power without justice, or is it necessary for it to hold it with justice? If, as you were saying just now, justice is wisdom, he said, with justice. But if it's the way I was saying, with injustice, I very much admire Thrasymachus, I said. The fact you aren't just nodding and shaking your head, but also answering beautifully, nobly, beautifully. Well, I'm doing it to humor you, he said, and you're doing it well. Now, just humor me just this much more. Tell me, do you believe that either a city or an army or pirates or thieves or any other group that embarks in anything commonly unjust will have the power to accomplish it if they have behaved unjustly towards each other? In other words, can people engaging in injustice, will they succeed if they're acting unjustly towards each other? No, not at all, he said. And what if they don't behave unjustly? Won't they accomplish more? Very much so. Then surely, Thrasymachus, injustice causes faction and hatreds and fights among one another, which justice causes like-mindedness and friendship. Isn't that so? So be it, he said. I won't. So I won't be able. So I won't be at odds with you. Now, this is like the cynic is, in spite of himself, is enacting what the conversation is about, right? He's in spite of if Socrates say he will and cynic has become friends. This may or may not be the step in that direction, right? This is where they're coming. That this may or may not. I'm not going to be at odds with you. I'm not going to be at odds with you in a sense. Now, he's basically saying that not fighting with it. Okay, but here's Aristotle's point that okay, justice can cause justice. A just person in a relatively unjust city can cause stasis, conflict. So that's the problem with this idea that it's not just the just man can cause stasis and disagreement. In if the city of people who are not just and not good, this person can do so. The justice is justice. Both the unjust person can cause stasis, but in some situations the just can cause stasis. Now they're least likely to do it, Aristotle says, but Aristotle admits that possibility that Socrates denies. Okay, and that's I think this is the argument. I think this is the difference between Aristotle and Plato here. And you're behaving very well, most excellent fellow. But tell me this: if that is the work of injustice to bring in hatred wherever it's present, won't it also when it comes in among the free as well as the enslaved make them hate each other and form factions to be powerless to act in common with each other? Certainly. Then what? Then what if it comes to be present in two people? Won't they be at odds and hate and be enemies of one another as well as those who are just? They will be, he said. Then, you surprising fellow, if injustice comes to be present in one person, will it lose its power completely, or will it, well, or still have it to no less extent? Let it have it to let it have it to no lesser extent, he said. Then does it come to light as having some such power as this, and that in which it comes to be present, either in a particular city, a race of people, or an army, or anything else whatsoever, the first of all injustice makes it powerless to act with itself on account of being in factions and at odds, then also makes it to be the enemy of itself and opposed to it and what is just. Isn't that the way it is? Certainly. So even when it's present in one person, I assume it will do these things, do these very same things that are the workings of its nature. Will it first make him powerless to act, being at faction, not and not of one mind himself with himself, and then an enemy both to himself and those who are just? Right? Yes. And my friend, the gods too are just. So be it. Therefore, Thrasymachus, someone who is unjust will also be an enemy of the gods, but someone who is just be a friend. Gorge yourself on the argument fiercely, he said. I won't oppose you anyways, so that I won't be hateful to these people here. In other words, this is the idea that I'm not going to become hateful. I realize that they like this. I want to. He wants to please them. He's a pleaser. He's a people pleaser, and he sees that these arguments are pleasing them. So he's like, I don't want to become hateful to them. Come then, I said, fill up what's left of the feasting for me, for by answering just as you are now, because those who are just have come to light as wiser and better and more empowered to act, while those who are unjust are not able to act in any way with each other. Okay? But in fact, aren't speaking. But in fact, we aren't speaking the whole truth when we claim that people who are unjust ever yet acted vigorously in common with one another in anything, since they couldn't have kept their hands off each other if they were completely unjust. But is it clear that there was a certain justice in them that made them not do injustice to each other, at least in the same time they were doing it to those who they were doing it to? It it was by means of this justice that they acted in whatever respects that they did act. And they embarked in their unjust deeds in a semi vicious people, as a semi vicious people, since those who are all vicious and completely unjust are completely powerless to act. Now I understand these things are so, and not the way you set them down at first. But whether those who are just also live better and happier than those who are unjust, the very thing we propose to have considered later needs to be considered. So there's another question: Is it better to be? Is it better? Is it Are the just better, live better, and are happier than the unjust, or the unjust happier and live better and than the unjust? Right? Who lives better in that sense? Who lives happier and better? Needs to be considered. And now, as it seems to me, at least, they appear to be the things we've said. Nevertheless, it needs to be examined still better, since the discussion is not about random things, but about the way we ought to live. So examine it, he said. I am examining it, I said. Plato says, Socrates says, right? And tell me, does it seem to you that that there is a certain work that only belongs to a horse? To me, yes. And would you set this down as the work of the horse or anyone else? What one could so work of a horse or anything else, whatever, what one could do only or best with it? I don't understand, he said. Try it this way. Is there anything else what you could see with with except eyes? Surely not. What then? Could you hear with anything except ears? Not at all. Then do we justly claim that these things are their works? Certainly. What about this? Could you cut off a branch from a vine with a dagger or a carving knife, or with many other things? How could I not? But with none of these, I imagine, so beautifully as with the pruning knife that works for the use. True. Then shall I not set this down as the work of the thing? We'll certainly shall. The pruning knife is just making that knife, right? So now I assume you'd understand better what I'm asking. I was asking just now, when I inquired whether the work of the thing wouldn't be that which is what it accomplishes, or which it, compared to other things, accomplishes more beautifully. In other words, it does the job. Not only does the job, it does it more beautifully. It does it more fitting, more completely. And I do understand. And it does seem to me that this is the working of each thing. Okay. And then does it seem to you that there is a virtue for each thing that has some work attached to it? Let's go back to the example we've claimed there, some work that belongs to the eyes. There is. So there's a virtue, there's also a virtue that belongs to the eyes, a virtue too. What's next? There Was there a work that belongs to the ears? Yes. Then a virtue too, a virtue too. What then about everything else? Isn't it that way? It's that way. Keep on. Could eyes ever accomplish their own work beautifully if they didn't have their own particular virtue, but vice instead of their virtue? How could they? No, you no doubt mean blindness instead of sight. Thrasymachus, right? So it says, whatever virtue belongs to them, I said, since I am not yet asking about that, but whether if the particular virtue that pertains to their work, they're going to do to their work they're going to do the work they do well, but do it badly with the vice. On this point, you're telling the truth. So then the ears too, when deprived of their virtue, they will accomplish it. They will work badly, certainly, and we will put everything else to the same statement. It seems that way to me. Come then, after these things, consider this one. Is there any work belonging to a soul which that you couldn't perform with a single thing, with perform with any single other thing there is? Like this, for instance, managing and ruling and deliberating and things like that. Is there anything other than a soul to which we could justly attribute them and claim they belong to them particular? Nothing else. Next, then, what about living? Won't we claim that it is work belonging to a soul, especially that? Then, do we also claim there is a virtue belonging to the soul? We claim that. Thrasymachus, will the soul ever accomplish its work well if it's deprived of its own particular virtue, or that of its, or is out of its power? Out of out of its power, out of its power. In other words, will a soul ever accomplish work that is derived of its own particular virtue, or is it out of its power? Out of its power. Therefore, it's necessary for a bad soul to rule and manage things badly, and for a good one to do all these things well, necessarily. And haven't we granted that justice is virtue of the soul and injustice vice? We've granted it. Therefore, the just soul and the just man will live well, and the unjust badly. And so it appears, according to your argument. But surely someone who lives well, lives beautifully, lives well, and is blessed and is happy, and someone who doesn't is the opposite. How not? Therefore, someone who is just happy and just someone who is just is happy, and someone who's unjust is miserable. So be it, he said. But surely it's not being miserable that's profitable, but being happy. How not? Therefore, blessed Thrasymachus, justice is never more profitable than justice. So, Socrates, let these things be your feast at the festival of Bendis. This is your feast. This is your food. Let this be your feast at the festival of Bendis. This is your feast. This argument. It's thanks to you, Thrasymachus, I've said, since you have become gentle and stopped being salvage to me. I haven't feasted myself. I haven't feasted myself beautifully, though, but on account of myself and not you. Just as greedy eaters are always taking a bite of what carried past them, grabbing at it before they've enjoyed the previous dish in full measure. I too seem to myself to be like that. In other words, I've graded. I'm reading it. I started the new decks. I'm greedy eater. Greedy eater. He says, right. Um, uh, Before finding the thing we were considering first, what in the world the just thing is, I let go of that to start looking around to see whether it's vice and stupidity or wisdom and virtue. And when in turn the argument fell my way latter, that injustice is more profitable than justice, right? It fell my way that injustice is more profitable than justice. I couldn't hold back from going after this one and away from that other one. And so it has come to pass that now I know nothing about I know nothing from the conversation, because whether I don't know what the just thing is. I don't know what the just thing is. I don't. We haven't really discerned what justice is. I mean, we've had this. In other words, we had this whole thing. In other words, he's saying that my other argument with this Calvinist Polemarchus, and even your beginning argument was about what justice is, right? But then we got distracted because what the argument was that the argument was about whether um, about whether vice or stupidity, wisdom and virtue, right? We started looking around to get this question because when it turned, and in turn, my argument fell my way later that injustice is more profitable than injustice. And I couldn't hold back from going after this one and carried away with this one, right? That is this argument. In other words, I've carried you away from the thing. And we've not basically addressed the question of what justice is. And that's going to be the rest of the Republic. This question about, well, what is justice? So we have, in other words, we end the book one with no satisfactory answer. And even though Socrates has kind of defeated Thrasymachus, right? He tames him, right? He still hasn't given his answer to what justice. He doesn't know what justice is yet. And this is how we end the first book of the Republic. Okay, that's it. I'm at the end of this. I'm not going to read the rest of the Republic. I just wanted to do the book first one. Maybe people say, "Oh, we're going to give us more." Maybe I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really that much keyed into doing it. Um, you have any questions or comments? Please put them below, and when I see them, I will respond to them. Um, Another thing you can do is if you like it, share it with a friend, share it on your social media, spread the video out. If you've not subscribed, subscribe. Encourage others to subscribe. Like to grow the channel some. We have to grow. Have to get bigger, a little bigger. We've been stuck around 300, low 300s. Like to grow some more. So just spread the news. Spread the news. If you didn't like it, of course you can say no, I didn't like it, but say why in the comments, and then maybe we can learn something. Right? That's like this. You can follow me on social media. The links are below. You can follow if you want to follow my academic background and stuff. You can visit my academic social media sites down below, and also some other sites that are dealing with this. Like I think I give Orsted down there. I'm not sure, but um, some background about my scholarship and where I do and what I am. So I'm not just some kind of YouTube guy not doing what the hell he's talking about. Um, Another thing you can do is if you want to help me, you can become a member of you want to help me do what I do doing these videos, help me out a little bit financially in the sense that you can become a member of Subscribe Star Patreon. I'm still doing it, so you're doing it for free anyways. Why should I help? Okay, it'd be nice, beneficial. If you're being maybe I am not benefiting anyone. Maybe no one's benefiting from this. No one cares for this, and I'm just wasting my time and killing things like this. Frustrating. So you can do that through Subscribe Star Patreon, or you can even, there's other ways you can help. The one way you can help is buy one of my books, by either Amazon or any of the publishers that have it. If you really want to help me if you want to buy the Lulu book, buy Lulu, because if you buy Lulu, if you get Amazon, they'll have a profit, right? But if you buy Lulu, I'd get the profit that Amazon or booksellers will get. So that's how you can help this. Now, if you know a friend or someone who's going to study something about one of my books, find it. If you're interested in these topics yourself, know a friend or a gift for somebody you want to do that way, you can do that as well. That's it. Well, take care. This ends the book one. My promise to do this eventually, I did it. So I feel done. I feel satisfied of this. Of course, Fridays are always kind of either a live stream or something. I think the September 1st, I didn't do that. I was doing something, as I said in the video. I'm going to be doing something on, so maybe I'll do something on this. We'll do maybe a live stream on Fridays. And I'm going to be starting, I think, soon doing Rousseau's social contract. I think that's going to be the next starting point. Okay, that's it. Have a good day. Take care. Thank you for being with me. Have a good day. Bye bye. Have a good one.